Hey everyone. Well, Thanksgiving's coming soon, and I figured a good way to celebrate Thanksgiving is to do the same thing I did with Halloween. Remember, with my Halloween month, I decided to take a look at 10 movies that weren't horror movies, but were films that were festive for the holiday of Halloween. Well, I decided that certainly seems like a fun thing to do for Thanksgiving, since it's another holiday where I celebrate with movies that don't really relate to the holiday or more based on just a unique way to relate. Like, I've said this before, but the way I celebrate Thanksgiving in terms of what movies I watch is classics from the 30s through 50s before movies I would take note with. I've mentioned that a couple times. You see it's confusing now, but it's a whole thing. Anyway, today I decided to go ahead and take a look at some movies that are Thanksgiving festive, had the Thanksgiving spirit in them. So here's all five of them. Yeah, unfortunately, I can only find five movies to fit into the category of, movies that fit as a Thanksgiving festive type movie. There aren't, like I mentioned before, there aren't really that many Thanksgiving movies out there. It seems that November is the second month for Christmas, and I don't like that. But yeah, so I cannot find as many Thanksgiving movies out there, so I can only do a top five. So yeah, this is just the top five of Thanksgiving movies. And like the Halloween list, this is going to be ranked based off of how Thanksgiving festive the movies are, how much good Thanksgiving joy there is, and how much, how good the movie is in general. Just, these are movies that I like in general. So yeah, I can only find five of them. It's sad, I know. Thanksgiving, I feel like really should be celebrated better, but it is what it is. So let's do this. So here we have Prisoners. Now, in general, the movie is just a big thriller involving kidnapping, some crimes committing stuff. I've seen a lot of these kind of movies, so it's kind of hard to remember a lot of them. But anyway, this movie in general has the Thanksgiving spirit in it. The opening and parts of the movie do revolve around family matters. Like, we get to see sort of a separated family and sort of some drama involving the hidden secrets behind some people. And yeah, with all how much family is involved in terms of the story, that does have a good Thanksgiving feel. And yeah, there is a lot of Thanksgiving stuff you can find in the scenes that involve it, and they do play a good part in the terms of the story. You have to feel the story, sort of feel whether you have to feel bad for the main characters or get concerned of what kind of situation we got to see with these people. And yeah, there is a good amount of family that is involved with this kind of serious stuff. And yes, the Thanksgiving stuff is there in the movie, and it is overshadowed by, really serious crimes being put together. But with the Thanksgiving stuff that's there, Prisoners can be made for those people who are into serious crime stories, but also want to acknowledge the joy that Thanksgiving is, and just kind of, want to just kind of watch something that can give them that both appeals. Get kill two birds with one stone, something like that. Now here's a more clean movie. Hannah and Her Sisters is a fun little chick flick starring some fun guys. We got Carrie Fisher, we got Woody Allen. We got a good amount of actresses and actors in this movie. There are a lot of good cast members in the film, and they all do play a good part. The roles are mostly involving around these sisters, and yes, there are good amount of family-related issues in this movie as well. Thanksgiving does play a better part in this movie, as it does take place more closer to Thanksgiving time. There's not as much crime that's committed as much as there's more sort of drama with these people, and drama is better than crime when talking about Thanksgiving. But yes, Hannah and Her Sisters comes across as one of those more, you can either really love the movie or you just find it to be good in a way. And that's kind of what I think of this movie. This is just one of those films that I liked, but it's just one of those things that has its moments where, I can't say for sure that the movie is like one of the greatest dramas out there. But it still is a worthy watch. If you like to see sort of the sisterhood things, or if you're a fan of Woody Allen, because he does play a big part in this movie, then yeah, this is one of those good films, I probably should watch more Woody Allen stuff. I haven't really seen that much of it, but I feel like Woody Allen, the type of stuff that Woody Allen does is kind of stuff that I probably won't get incredibly attached with, But from the stuff I have seen of him, it has proven to work pretty well. This and Annie Hall, these two are some fine little movies that aren't exciting, but are still emotionally well, and will have a good impact to those who probably do like Woody Allen stuff a little more. Ah, yes, the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. The original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is still a childhood classic of mine. I remember always loving that movie, watching it as much as I could. It really gives me a good feel. As dark as it can get for grown-ups, it still does play a fun part for me. Now, I'm going to be entirely honest. I hated this movie when I first saw it as a child. I remember back when I was like 5 or 6, I was a huge fan of the original, and I heard there was a remake. I was like, oh, interesting. So I gave it a watch, and this movie really annoyed me. I didn't like how they treated Van. I didn't like how dark it got. I didn't like how the CGI was. I didn't like the way the performances were. I just really was bothered by what this movie had, especially compared to what the original was. As I grew older, I started looking more into it, and granted this movie does play a bigger part for the book, it has proven to be better for some people since it's more faithful to the original book. And yeah, I actually do like this movie now. With me becoming a better fan of Tim Burton, then this movie is pretty great for that matter. I still think the original is better, and honestly, this movie isn't amazing in my opinion, but it is still pretty fun. It's a remake involving more darker tone, but still also keeping new characters and new ideas. Now, the Thanksgiving aspect of the movie mostly comes from the fact that Willy Wonka plays a much bigger part this time. Funny, it's called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory this time, and yet Willy Wonka seems to take up a lot of focus here. He still isn't the lead. Like, they do try to still make Charlie very important too, but when Willy Wonka first shows up, he starts to really get part of the story. And yeah, most of his situation, we get to see how he has family matters. He has a dad who's happens to be Count Dooku, ex-Saruman, ex-Christopher Lee. Anyway, yeah, he essentially has family issues, and when he has to see his father and they have to reunite, it's a whole happy reunion or whatever. But the overall message, kind of focusing on how childhood life is gonna be something to grow out of and still reunite from. And then there's the ending where they have Thanksgiving with Wonka, and that ending does kind of solidify what his character was for this movie. Just a lonely child who's in a Johnny Depp mansion. I'm saying a lot of random stuff. What I'm trying to say is this movie is over the top in a lot of ways, but when you want to look at it through a Thanksgiving eye, you can definitely see it when you focus on Willy Wonka's side of the story. Whether it's him dealing with family and then him putting up with Charlie's family, that the movie does end in that way, where you get to see the Thanksgiving feel. So yeah, this movie handles Thanksgiving better than the original does. The original is still better at heart in my opinion, but in terms of which one will work better to watch during Thanksgiving, you can definitely feel that vibe when you watch this movie. Probably not in terms of when they're in the factory, but when they're not in the factory is more where you can get the Thanksgiving vibe from. Now, a movie called Thanksgiving. How can you get more Thanksgiving than that? Well, before I bring that up, let's just talk about what Thanksgiving is. Yeah, it's called Thanksgiving, so that must mean it has to be the most Thanksgiving movie ever. Well, the thing is, it's a horror movie. This horror film, based on a fan-made short by Rodriguez and Ellie Roth, is a horror movie about some dude who wears a pilgrim mask or whatever and pretty much slashes people based on what they're thankful for. I think that's what it was, right? All I remember is that the movie was pretty chaotic at first, and as it went on, it got more chaotic at times. Like, we get this Black Friday rampage that became way too violent and over the top. And then when this violent killer shows up, you realize this is just going to be like a Michael Myers for the thankful field. And yeah, that's kind of what the movie is. It's getting killed, but getting to see what you're thankful for. And just be thankful you weren't killed. I can't really say much. This is a weird movie. It's chaotic, it's bizarre, it's all over the place, but it is really fun. You can enjoy how silly you can get from it, but overall, this movie just is so ridiculous, and you can't help but love it. You gotta love how ridiculous the kills are. It's frightening, but at the same time, you're probably still gonna laugh to most parts because, yeah, This is just going to be a silly Thanksgiving horror film, you know? It's trying to bring back the Thanksgiving vibe in a way that you wouldn't expect it. Like when you say you want more Thanksgiving movies, they're like, all right, well, here's a slasher movie that takes place during Thanksgiving. Does that work? I mean, it kind of works. I mean, if it has Thanksgiving in the title, then it must be related to it greatly. And it is. If you're a child who likes to celebrate Thanksgiving, then yeah, do not watch this movie. But, you know, for all the older, grown-up people who love Thanksgiving but also love to see violence in movies, then yes, you will definitely find this to be a good tradition to watch. But however, I would think that a movie that's called Thanksgiving would be the top Thanksgiving festive movie. So how come it isn't? Other than the fact that it is obviously a horror movie. Well, even though this movie seems like it would work great to watch during Thanksgiving, at least for the older ones, there is one movie that will always hold a heart to me, and to a lot of people, for Thanksgiving. True, it is another adult movie, but it's heartfelt. This movie is honestly perfect in every way for Thanksgiving. It's not, it's not something that's gonna involve the history of Thanksgiving or involve something involving cutting the turkey or inviting family over. But the Thanksgiving is in the movie for just what our characters are. It's about this guy who has to go to Chicago, or New York, actually. I'm getting mixed up. Anyway, it's this guy who's in New York, but he has a family in Chicago. He has to go home to Chicago, but he can't make it out without having to deal with this one guy whose laughs a lot, can be pretty annoying, and he has to put up with during his entire trip, which goes in all bad directions. With the title implying, yes, he has to fly, but the flight gets mixed up. Then he has to take a train, but that fails. Then he tries to drive a car, but that goes in all bad directions. And yeah, the whole movie is just a funny road trip comedy. In terms of comedy, this movie is pretty great. There are a ton of funny moments. Like, John Candy is amazing, and even though not everything of Steve Martin's is that funny, in my opinion, this is an exception. And honestly, yeah, this movie just really has a good message in terms of Thanksgiving. It's a grown-up movie, sure, but kids, I think, still can watch it. I mean, really funny enough, there's only one scene in this entire movie that makes it R-rated. It's literally just one scene, so you can watch this movie with your kids. You just gotta take out that one scene. Honestly, that one scene can just be taken out. Fine, it's a funny scene for us, but if you want to show this movie to your kids, you can, you know? Just gotta remove that one scene. Anyway, the movie works because, yeah, it has Thanksgiving in the story. It's about a guy who just wants to go home for Thanksgiving with his family. And you get the vibe of it because, you feel how he feels. He really does want to see his family. And you actually can feel for the funny guy, too. Like, John Candy, he does a great job at being hilarious, but also actually having a good emotional stuff to it. I think that's what makes him one of the best actors of his time, or at least one of the best comic actors of his time. There are a lot of actors out there. Anyway, he plays his part so well. They both play their parts so well. And yes, the movie does work in a lot of ways. It's funny, it's heartfelt, it really captures Thanksgiving perfectly. So honestly, even though I really do wish we got more Thanksgiving movies out there, for the ones we do have, this is the one that works the best. It has the best comedy, it has the best story, it has the best build up, and just the best overall feel for Thanksgiving. And yeah, so yeah, out of every Thanksgiving movie out there, even the ones I haven't seen, this one should still hold a grudge as being the best Thanksgiving movie ever. Not counting TV, there are a lot of specials out there, like TV specials and whatever I didn't bring up for this video. This video was just based on movies. But out of all the movies out there, then yeah, it's this one. In terms of specials, there are a lot. But in terms of movies, there could be more. But we have this at least. And I can never get tired of watching this every Thanksgiving. So even though there's not many Thanksgiving movies I can watch, rather just classics that I use for my tradition, the one Thanksgiving movie I can always count on watching is this one. Yeah, that was pretty quick. I honestly think I'm a little too tired to do a long video, but yeah, this is just one of those nights, so hope I made myself perfectly clear. If I didn't, then, I don't know, see you on Thanksgiving, I guess.